All right. We are live. Okay, let me post this. Hey, Lesbones, what's up? First one. Welcome. Finally did it. Took long enough, but finally did it. But appreciate you coming on. Really appreciate it. Not much, man. I am freaking out right now. I'm very excited, obviously, but very nervous because this is now a thing. But to be fair, everything that could possibly go wrong as far as trying to set this up happened today. Like my actual camera's not working. Hey, Radical Leftist Agenda, what's up? Thank you for coming in. Welcome. Um, yeah, as I was saying, everything that could possibly go wrong did today on top of stuff I had to do for work. So, and most importantly, didn't realize that my actual channel is not connecting. So for now, until I figure this out, we're going to stream through here and I'll just upload the videos onto the Komawo Mukwano channel. Oh no, you're not late. You're not late. You're right on time. I started like a minute after 9, so you're right on time. You're right on time. So I'm just curious to see who will end up coming in because yeah, because I said, oh, we're gonna do it, and then I freaked out. I said, no, we can't do it. And I'm just kind of like, I look, you guys have been patiently waiting for months, and just to make sure, thank you all for keeping me accountable to do this. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. And if it's a hot mess, then it's gonna be a hot mess. It's my first stream. So we can only go up from here. So Transmark says, what's up? Thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you guys supporting me. Yeah, probably not many since your subs won't know, but we can prepare this live later. Yep. I mean, the good thing is I only have currently around 90 subs right now. The bad thing is I only have 90 subs right now. So those are 90 people that under normal circumstances I could, let them know that, I actually am live and I actually have premiered. Yeah, I'm excited that you guys are hanging out with me. Yeah. So yeah, we finally get to do this. Yeah. So definitely going to need a lot of help learning how to do this, but I figured, you know what? The only way you can do it is just jump right in and just learn as you go. So, but yeah, I will be asking you guys a lot to help me out as I figure a lot of this out. And I actually, funny enough, I probably will announce it later, but I'm supposed to do an interview with some people connected to the Marches for Medicare for All on Monday. So that's the other reason why I was freaking out, because if I couldn't get this straightened out, then I couldn't do this interview. So but I guess for now, this will probably work to do it this way until I figure out how I can connect or whatever's wrong with the actual channel that it's not allowing me to stream from there. But um so yeah, so I want to know more. So you want to know more about the interview on Monday? Is that what you're asking? Hey Gina, thanks for being here. Yeah, so Sharif He's the head organizer for the Marches for Medicare for All. This is the protest that Jackson actually mentioned on his stream maybe about a week or so ago. That they're going to do a protest outside of Nancy Pelosi's mansion, themed after the Day of the Dead. So Sharif actually contacted me a couple of weeks ago and asked if a couple of people in connection to that protest would be able to, come on and I can interview them. And at first, obviously, given the theme of this channel, which is I want to center more on East Africa and issues in relation to Black people, in the African diaspora of containing within the Caribbean here and in Europe, didn't think that would necessarily fit. However, I felt like, especially, guys know me, I'm a huge advocate for healthcare. And I think in light, especially given that, you know, we as Black people are highly affected by healthcare. And I think that's a common theme that you could see, throughout in Africa as well as in Europe in regards to Black people and needs of healthcare. So I figured, it might connect, especially given that, and this is another interview that I'm hoping to do that I mentioned on Twitter. One of my friends actually, you could say he's actually one of the founders of this channel in a way. When I was in Rwanda back in 2019, he and another friend of mine were kind of dreaming about the idea of what we can do, just as far as, and I'll probably explain a little bit more about, why the channel exists later, but we're just kind of dreaming about, like how we can, what kind of mutual aid efforts can we, do like in Rwanda and Uganda, especially since, I've had ties to both countries being now that I visited Rwanda, lived in Uganda for a little bit for 5 months back in 2011. I've gone back for visits since. But my friend is actually in Seattle right now for a conference. So I was hoping that I would be able to interview him in connection for him to talk about healthcare in Rwanda. So unfortunately, since it's a government trip, there's not a lot that he can talk about. But I wanted to see either way if I can interview him to just to see what we can talk about. But the issue is he doesn't have a computer with him. So I'm trying to see if there's a way, like if he has access to a computer that I will hopefully would be able to do that interview and record it beforehand and then post it later. He's actually going to be in DC for a layover en route back to Kigali. So worst comes to worst, if he's willing, I might have to travel up to Virginia, where I guess will he be staying to meet up with him and do that interview there. So, but we'll see. But on Monday for sure, I will be interviewing, a couple of folks for this protest, and hopefully they will be able to tell you more about, what's happening and how we can support them. But I appreciate them at least at minimum giving me content. So I think that's the biggest thing right now that I need to kind of get my butt in gear is, try and get as much. Well, I'll say this, like I'm not trying to stream like every day or necessarily every week. I think right now I just want to try and stream things that I'm really passionate about and I want to give quality time to talk about, and especially given my schedule, at least for now. So it'll be very sporadic, but I hope that at least in whatever content I do produce would be of quality and that it's something that I can be proud of. And at least for now, just kind of put out what I like and put it out there. And then, obviously build a community from that and just kind of see what you guys are interested to learn about and then take it from there. So let me read some of your comments here. So Transmark says, are you familiar with Eritrea? I want to learn more about it due to its geopolitical importance. Not really, but I do follow a couple of people. I don't remember top of my head on Twitter who are, I would say, experts on Eritrea. So it could be very possible that I might be able to have them come on, just to kind of talk about the issues in Eritrea and Ethiopia. So yeah. So what's on the map? You mean, oh, hold on. This map is Uganda, that I got when I was there. And this one over here, obviously, is DC. So on my walls here, I have maps of places where I've lived. So I've lived in Boston, I lived in London, I was born in London, I live in DC now, and I lived in Uganda. So that's that map. Nope, right there. So let's see. Just reading your chats. This is so weird having to kind of watch myself and read chats now is very weird versus watching someone else. And, especially with modding, having to just really watch the chat. So having to do both on this big screen is a little weird. So let's see. Colin, you have nice eyebrows. Thank you. Considering that I am bald, I need to make sure that my eyebrows are in check. So thank you. I appreciate that. Mad Mark Sister says, I love Bobby White. I actually saw a Facebook clip, I think Bobby Wine and I believe of Museveni. I forgot the context. I think they were running, and I think Museveni basically shot like everyone who was running and basically just ran to the finish line or something like that. So, but yeah. So when it looks so perfect, I didn't even think anything about you being bald. Well, actually, I get them fretted, just I have very bushy eyebrows, and actually I need to kind of get them checked now. I think it's about time to get them taken care of, but I have naturally bushy eyebrows. So Invalid, what's up? How you doing? Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the stream. Does being bald mean you're always cold in the winter? Yeah. I just have to remember, have to wear a hat. Thing is, because I have such a big head, I don't like the way that hats fit on me. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a catch-22. Like, I don't particularly like wearing hats or caps, but at the same time, like especially in the wintertime, it's kind of a necessary evil. But yeah, so it's fun you're on stream. I know it's fun I'm on stream now, finally. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I wanted to, I plan to have started in July to start putting out content, just after, just giving myself, since I had the summer off from work. So just having some time, to rest and then having time to work on content. And then I honestly was just planning to, record myself and then, edit that and then post it. But I hate editing to death. And so I just kind of, really wasn't into and I had some recording, but then I kind of hated, like having to do take after take after take of what I wanted to say. So so after maybe like a couple of days, I just kind of stopped. And then uh, during when I was exercising at some point in the summer, I think I kind of pinched my back and my left knee. So which not I wasn't in so much pain, but it was painful enough where I definitely had to kind of, chill out and kind of rest for like about a couple of weeks. And then by the time I felt somewhat better, then like school, was starting up again. So I had to go back to work. So and then I've just been super busy, that I haven't really had the chance to stream. So, but I'm on, for me, I'm off through Monday since Monday is People Indigenous Day. So I figured I might as well do it now. And, I just had a lofty goal of making everything kind of professional as far as, you know, like recording and then editing and then adding, music and all that kind of stuff. But then, but obviously that takes a lot of time. So, and I think as people were saying, it's just more important just to put out something and then just work your way up from there. So better off putting out something versus waiting to have a perfect video, which doesn't exist. But I just had the mindset of just doing something like wanting to do everything of quality. So that's just in my mind of what I wanted to do. Um, but I am perfectly fine with doing this in this way. And then I we'll work on that part, as we go. Um, so let's see. Um, let's see. All right. So just reading some of your comments. So After Dark Dose asks, what's your opinion on the current American warmongering attitude towards China in the mainstream media? And have you heard of the two-hole theory? I have not heard of the two-hole theory. Um, and I think generally, as far as our view, well, America's view on China is, like now I'm kind of have mixed feelings on China in a lot of ways because on one hand, I don't necessarily appreciate what America is saying about China when we probably do worse shit than they do. However, I know just in my time in Africa, like, and actually, I'll probably will talk either tonight or another stream. Just China has, a hold, in East Africa, just as far as, like infrastructure. And, they pay out, they provide African governments with loans to, renovate infrastructure in their countries that Africans cannot necessarily pay back. You know, so so like they might like in Uganda when the last visit I was there, like there was a highway that was built that ran from Kampala, which is the capital, to the airport, and it was a beautiful highway, especially since it was definitely nicer compared to dirt roads, but it's basically the Chinese who built it, and are essentially running it because Uganda is basically paying back the loans as far as building that highway. So I have very mixed feelings, on China in certain ways, but but I think you could almost say that for every country, though, as far as, you know, there's some pros and cons to every country, especially if they're more developed. And I really don't think it's fair for America to kind of shit on China when we're essentially doing exactly the same shit, if not worse shit, in other places too. So that's just kind of my take. Um, Colin, I totally know what you mean. I've been to Ethiopia a lot, and authorities in the country allow Chinese firms to do anything, and people just treat Chinese flat out better. Yeah, true. Ricky! How you doing, Ricky? Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you. Um, so let's see. Wow, have 7 people here. That's great. If we can get to 10, I'll be happy with that, at least tonight. So, yeah, I won't keep you guys long because I actually do have stuff I need to do after this. We'll try and keep it to about an hour or so. But but yeah, I just wanted to have the opportunity to talk a little bit more. Like I've mentioned this on Jackson's stream back, I think it was in June, and then I talked about this with DJ Joe Nice with an interview I did for his uh, show back, I believe it was August now. But kind of share a little more in depth about why, how this channel kind of came about, and just kind of my evolution. Because actually, in a lot of ways, I think a lot of my political evolution, just as far as, being a Black multinational, like who became a US citizen back in 2015 and being able to get connected with the, political process in this country since I was able to vote. And then, traveling abroad and just kind of seeing, like, well, seeing slash being more aware of, the issues that are not necessarily talked about. And, I think especially as far as, like, um, basically America is a fucked up country in a lot of ways, and its influence on the world is extremely fucked up. And just, I think the implications of that, I think, yeah, just kind of how I just kind of grew. And, but I think just seeing a lot of the realities of what, East Africans go through, and having a lot of conversations with people who I've known now for about a decade, just feel like, like I'm in a position here to try and do something about it, especially given, the privilege that I do have here, and other, Black people here relatively. I mean, again, it's relative, but we do have some privilege here that we don't necessarily think about just due to, the racism that does exist in this country. So it's always hard to kind of think about how privileged we are when, the powers that be just kind of bog down, people of color. Um, but yeah, just kind of talking a little more about all of that, and how, why, and essentially how Komawo Mukwano just came to be. So I'll definitely share that with you guys. And then, I think just, again, like I just want to, I think really my ultimate goal, at least for now for the channel, is to kind of build a community around, just people who are interested to learn more and diving deep into more issues pertaining to East Africa in general, and how that connects to a lot of issues that Black people go through here. And like, and so I think just especially for me, and then, definitely allies who are interested in more international politics, like things that we're able to do, or how we, can, how we can get a little more involved in what's happening in the world, internationally. I mean, there's a lot happening here, but there's also a place for us, I think, especially for Black people, in Africa in particular, that I think we can definitely be doing a lot more, or we could be more active, on the continent as well. Yeah, like, it's so neat because I don't know shit about it. And honestly, like, I don't know shit about Africa, a lot of stuff about Africa. Like I said, I'm just kind of growing in this myself. So, in a lot of ways, this channel is really mostly for me, to keep me accountable so I can continue to learn more. But I think being on the ground, and again, just having the advantage of going to Uganda like 5 times in the last decade, meeting the same people generally, and just kind of each time I go back, just learning something new and just deepening my knowledge of the country and just the issues that that people are going through right now, just has really kind of helped cultivate my thinking as far as, like, what is not necessarily being talked about here. And then like, but I think just knowing that information, trying to do something about it. So um have you learned about the coup in Guinea? No, I haven't. And see, that's, yeah, that's, in a lot of ways why I want this channel to exist. Because like I said, well, Africa is a huge continent. So there's a lot of issues that I don't even know, just as far as what's happening in different countries, throughout the continent. So, that's in a lot of ways why I wanted to have this channel, to kind of, kind of bring up those issues, up to light a little bit more. Let's see. Dizzy, what's up? How you doing? Thank you for being here. The coup was from bauxite. Yeah, I mean, generally any coup, especially in Africa, is for its natural resources. So yeah, it's not surprising. Yeah. Thank you for streaming. Oh, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you guys supporting me as you are now a part of. Yeah, this channel is up and it's live finally. So yeah, just thank you guys for just being here with me and supporting me and encouraging me, especially the last few months, especially, like I did not want to do this at all, but I think, like it's necessary. And yeah, so thank you guys for pushing me and keeping me accountable to do this. So, but yeah, we're finally here. And now that I'm here, you can't keep me away. Maybe a little bit, but like now I have to keep doing this. Now it's basically out in the universe. I'm doing this now. Uh, so, but yeah, like I said, this stream is kind of meant to be like an AMA kind of, so yeah, feel free. Um, yeah, feel free to ask me. Yeah, feel free to ask me questions that you might have, and I'll definitely talk about the channel. And then actually, I do have a couple clips I want to show you guys pertaining to, like, in my opinion, why a lot of ways why I want to do this channel in part. So I definitely want to show those to you. Probably haven't seen these clips before, and I actually haven't seen these clips either up until maybe like a couple of months ago, like just random stuff on YouTube and I think maybe Instagram. So um so yeah, the AOC moment made you famous. You had no choice. Well, true, but at the same time, you didn't see my face though. You just like my voice is famous. I'm not famous. So like like I could still kind of get away being in the background because yeah, people wouldn't necessarily know it was me unless if you know my voice and you do the circumstances of me being there. So, so I kind of enjoy people not necessarily knowing that it was me, but at the same time, it's kind of cool. Like it's kind of like my little secret. Like I can tell people if I want to, but people won't necessarily know unless I tell them or if you guys tell them. So, but, uh, Colin, what are your thoughts on Dubois? Um, can you be a little bit more specific about that? You know, how many side hoes do you have in Uganda and America combined, to be honest? None. Actually, funny enough, like when I lived in Uganda, one of the things that I was told was having to be extremely careful as far as being in any type of relationship because obviously, being from living in America, the idea like many Ugandan women might kind of assume like, oh, you're rich. So, so I would be kind of a prized possession in the sense of, like, oh, he's rich, and then also he's also from the West. So like I could marry him and then he could send me over, so having to be very careful about, but then again, like Uganda is a very somewhat conservative country anyway. So just having to be careful of just, making sure that, they didn't get the wrong idea as to why I was there. So um Dizzy, I'm calling Cap. Just kidding. So um but yeah, so yeah, just having to be very careful. And actually, like what the program that I did was essentially kind of a Christian ministry that I was affiliated with at the time. So obviously, just all that to say, like, like, especially since it was a Christian organization, having to kind of um, conduct yourself in a certain way too. So, um, let's see. Why do you visit overseas so often? Um, Not as often as you might think, but mostly like my family is lives overseas. So just a little bit about me. Like I was born and raised in London. My dad is from Barbados. My mom is from Trinidad, and they emigrated to the UK in the 60s, basically to work, and that's where they met. And and I was born, basically. So, and then like my parents were married when I was born. So, so whatever, but they broke up like within I think a year or so after I was born. And then my mom, well, my mom got reacquainted with my stepfather, who was also from Trinidad, but actually he grew up in the same neighborhood as my mom, but basically, long story, he lived in New Jersey. And basically, long story short, he basically asked my mom to marry him. And my mom, during that time, figured it might be a good move, which I think now looking back was probably not the right move to move here. So after they got married in London, I moved with them to New Jersey. And then after a few months, I actually moved back to London to live with my dad and my now stepmom and my younger half sister. And I finished primary school there, elementary school. And then I moved back to New Jersey with my mom and stepdad, basically from middle school, and I've been in the country ever since. But yeah, a lot of my siblings, though, actually, at least right now, live in London. And then, like, my dad now is in semi-retirement, so he lives between Barbados and London, depending on the time of year. So just by default, having to travel, like either to London or to Barbados to see my family. But then like the other part, and then like just growing up in Europe, like you to not travel outside of London was kind of like you don't like it, especially since I think now it's definitely a lot easier, given like you can take a train, into France or into the mainland Europe. But but I was always encouraged, like to travel, and to see different cultures and, you know, see how different people live and experience life. So that was something I just was just imparted on since I remember being like 5. Like my mom was saying, like, go see the world, travel, definitely when you grow up, you need to go take a plane or wherever and just travel. So that's just something I just imparted to me that I just kind of took on, so um uh let's see. Vaz says, I like the orange art piece on the left. So hold on. So this, yeah, so that's actually like a tapestry that I did actually get in Uganda during one of my visits. Yeah, I like it too. Um yeah, I like whenever I go to a different country, I try to get something, just try and get some art or some artifact, that that like kind of reminds me of my time in that country. And I think again, especially since I've gone to Uganda several times, like I've been able to get a couple of things. Actually, got a lot more things, but they're probably in part some and in those boxes over there that I haven't taken out. So CIA agents also travel a lot. Yeah, no, I'm not a CIA agent. Although some people think so, given the fact that I do have free passports, and I'm actually looking to get a fourth because I have passport from the UK, given I was born there, and then um, my Bajan Barbados passport from descent. So because my dad is a Bajan citizen, by default, I automatically get Bajan citizenship. Well, I had to apply for it, but it was granted to me. Being you know a child of a Bajan citizen. Same thing for Trinidad, where my mom's from. Citizenship by descent, and then being naturalized here. So yeah, like right now I'm free, and I'm probably next year I'll try and get the fourth, from Trinidad. You know, so um, Indy, what's up? Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you guys being here. So I've been streaming now just under 40 minutes. So I'll wait a couple of minutes, see if there are any more questions, and then kind of we'll share a little bit more about the channel, and then show you the clips that I want to show you. And yeah, this is just a hangout. Nothing really crazy, just kind of like a test stream, just seeing how this works, but also, just getting some content up. So do you think this is after dark though, do you think Christian missionary organizations are easy front for American government to destabilize countries they're located in? Do you defend the use of religion as a balkanization tactic? Um, uh, See, this question, um, this is a hard question for me because I definitely have evolved on that front for years now. And I think my issue, and actually I think it might make sense from my perspective, like just due to my experience, it might give you some idea of what I think. So actually I'll save that because I think that kind of relates to what I want to share today. But I can say right now, um, possibly, I don't think it necessarily, um, not every Christianized organization may be that way, but I definitely think in some other ways it may be more of a hindrance, just as far as, local culture. But I think, to be fair, I think it's just a lot of it has to do with, actually, I'm just going to hold off on that for a few minutes because I think once I kind of explain, my background a little bit in terms of the channel and then just my travels, to East Africa, I think that will make some sense, as to what I think. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of mixed on that, but I could definitely agree with you to in that regard of some of that. So, um, yeah. Any other questions for me? Or you just want me to start talking about the channel itself? I'm just kind of waiting just to see if any more people kind of come on too. So that's part of the other thing. Which AOC gaff is your fave? Uh can I say none? None are my favorite. Like, I mean, and I think I've talked to people because they feel like, oh, you bash AOC so much, and like, she's trying her best and all that. But I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think people are bashing uh correctly, and I think it's about time that of Kirsten Simina and what's his name? Dang it. Well, yeah, but Cinema and Manchin, there we go. Joe Manchin. Like I think people are starting to, do direct action against them, and that's totally fair. But I think AOC is not should not be immune to that, or any politician should not be immune to that. And I think I tweeted this out like maybe a couple of days ago, just the idea of like we treat our politicians like celebrities. They're not celebrities. They're public servants. We voted them in to do a job. And if they're not doing their job, we have to kind of, we have to keep them accountable of that. And unfortunately, AOC and the squad is part of the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party is corrupt as hell. So, so like, I'm not going to do her any favors, because she might be not as bad as the rest. If anything, I'm going to go at her a little harder because she like proposed a lot of the policies that I'm sure many of you and I, support. So, as the saying goes, your heart is on the people who you care about the most. So, and we care about them the most because they essentially ran on the idea that they weren't going to be like that they were going to be like the left version of the Tea Party. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give. So to answer your question, like none of the casts are actually really. They're not funny. I think it's just very sad just how she's kind of deviated to like a very stereotypical politician. So yeah, yeah, none of her guests are my favorite. All right, so you know what? I am going to talk about the channel. So I'm going to talk about, so the name, Komawo, I'm going to say it properly. So Komawo Mukwano. So it's a Luganda. So Luganda is a Ugandan tribal language. The whole phrase basically means come back, beloved, dear friend, dear one, however you want to phrase that. Um, and so well, actually, the name came about actually back in 2020, just before the lockdowns. And actually, let me backtrack a bit. Uh, so, so yeah, I first traveled to Uganda for a mission trip for the church I went to at the time back in 2008 for 2 weeks. And then I had the opportunity. So actually, I had a friend who invited me to do the program that she did in Uganda, but in another part of the country in 2010. And long story short, I, at that time, I was teaching and I was fired from my teaching position that year. So basically, then I had no job. So I was like, you know what? I might have nothing else to do. So, I didn't have a job at the time. So I raised money, and bought a plane ticket, and then I flew over to Uganda in uh, basically on the 1st of January 2011, and do kind of had an idea what I was doing, but not really. I didn't know exactly what to expect, but so basically the program that I was in, so basically I was taking like seminary classes like in the morning. So basically like from 8 to like 1 o'clock in the morning, I was taking class. I was in class, and then part of the program was there were the ministry I was working for or volunteering for rather. There were 7 family groups. So these family groups usually consisted of a house mom, a house dad. There were basically who worked for for the ministry, and that was their job. And their job was essentially like um, it, so children who, well, they say orphan, but they were just more like if there were issues with family or like if like relatives who were taking care of children, who couldn't necessarily take care of them properly may end up, in this program. So basically so their job essentially was to be like, I would say the equivalent of a dorm mom and dorm father, like to these children. And then I just kind of came in like as, I don't want, like an extra figure, to, mentor, uh, the family group that I was assigned to. So at the time, my family group was consisted of about 15 kids. So at the time, the youngest child was 2, and then the oldest at the time I think was about 21. Um, so wait, hold on. So Ricky asked, "Why aren't you on that channel?" You mean my Komawo Mukwano channel? For some reason, I cannot stream on that channel. For some reason, yeah, that was trying what I was trying to figure out earlier today. Um, so I have to stream. So I'm going to stream on my personal channel and then upload this as a video on that channel later. So that's why I'm not on that channel, Ricky. So actually, if anyone who is like a YouTube expert who can kind of help me out, try to troubleshoot that, I appreciate that. So I'm not sure why I wasn't gonna, not sure why I could not access it or cannot stream on that channel. Warrior plant while I'm subscribing. I'll water it later. It's fine. It's fine. um, but anyway, so I was working with this family group for 5 months, and long story short, they actually kind of pushed me in a lot of ways in thinking more, about my identity, just especially, uh, being a black male, but I think more particularly just helping me kind of figure out like, well, I'll say this. So like within the first month, and keep in mind, I was probably, and believe it or not, I was probably the first, if not among the first black, Western black person that they had ever met, believe it or not, because all the other missionaries or all the other people who will come and visit the country or come visit, um, the ministry to do, some service for however long were basically all white. So the fact that I came in as a black person was kind of, believe it or not, kind of like, what? Like, who are you? So basically, like, they were trying to figure me out for the first month. And like one of the first questions that they asked me was, uncle, where you from? And so I told them, well, was born in the UK, and but my family was from the Caribbean, and then I moved to the States later, as a teenager. But they kept asking, no, uncle, where you from? Where you from? And I would get a little upset. I'm like, I told you where I'm from. And then I kind of figured out, oh, they mean where am I from in connection to the continent. And I think that was the first time, not to say I never thought about it, but I think that was the first time that I was kind of hit with the idea of like, why don't I know where I'm from in the continent? And I think that was the first time that I kind of felt very conscious about that. Um, so especially since I told them, yeah, my ancestry is somewhere in West Africa, but I don't know where. That was basically what I said to them. And like I remember, feeling like a little, yeah, I was bothered by that in the sense of I didn't know that. And so like and I just remember from that point, just thinking to myself, like, if I was going to go back to the country again, I would do my best to try and figure out, where my ancestry lies on the continent. So I was able to actually took a couple of DNA tests. So I took one that was specific to, um, trying like they are a black owned company that specializes in, like tracing your roots to Africa. So I took that first. And then I took another one back in, I think it was 2019, like 23andMe. I just wanted to kind of check to see if um, what I found out back in 2014 kind of lined up with what 23andMe said. So basically it did. So in my case anyway. So just to kind of say, like, I'm pretty much Nigerian on my dad's side, and then Nigerian descent, and then like what I do know for now is Cameroonian on my mom's side at that piece, and there's probably a lot more um, that I don't know yet. So, but basically on my dad's side, I'm basically all Nigerian, which makes sense given that my dad's side of the family's from Barbados, and there were a lot, and back in history, there were a lot of slaves were taken from Nigeria to Nigeria, as well as a couple other Caribbean islands. So that kind of aligns, with history. So, um, but yeah, but long story short, did Elizabeth Warren's test give you an idea? No, because actually I took my test in 24. When did she take hers? She took hers probably around 2016, right? So no, I beat her. So yeah. And no, she didn't give me the idea. The children I worked with gave me the idea. So Bade is like, yeah, yes. Yes. Same island. From like Riri. So yes. Funny story, like in connection to that. So like I think it was the last time that I went to Uganda. Now, normally, like if you go on an American passport, you would have to pay for a visa. But if I enter the country with my Barbados visa, I don't have to pay the visa. So basically, whenever I go to Uganda, I use my uh, uh, Barbados passport for customs, and obviously, they're not meeting anyone from Barbados in Uganda ever. So like they look at my passport and they're like, where is this? Or what is this? And so like, and they also try to make me pay. I'm like, no, like, I think it's like, depending on the EU that I've gone, is either $50 or $100 to pay for the visa. So I'm like, no, it's free. And so I've said, you can check in the back and see. So they will always kind of check the back, and then yeah, it's kind of confirmed that yeah, like I don't have to pay the visa. And I remember like one of the custom officers asked me like, what country is this from? So I said, where Rihanna, and then like, yeah, that's where she's from. So so I always have to reference Rihanna whenever I go into Uganda, and that usually works. But but yeah, so like so uh after that hump with the kids, like I obviously started developing friendships and relationships with them. And then like I was only in the country for 5 months. So when it was time for me to come back here, I told them, I'll come back. I wasn't sure when, but I will come back for you. And like initially they were just kind of like, okay, whatever. And I found out later, the reason why they were kind of dismissive of that was because they've had a lot of people, who will come through, who will kind of come for the first time, and they would make relationships with them, with the kids, and they would say they'll come back, and they never do. So like when I said that, they were just kind of dismissive, of that. So like, but when I did come back, so I went to live in 2011. I came back in 2014, 3 years later. They were like, "Oh, uncle, you really meant what you said. You really do love us. You kept your word." And that was kind of when, after that, from that visit, they opened up a lot more because I kind of kept my promise. And then a lot of the issues, and then from that, they started opening up a lot more, in terms of, different things that they were experiencing as far as some of the missionaries, that were coming in from the UK and from the US, some of the issues that kind of align with that. And then like, I think just some of the cultural stuff that they were dealing with, like with mostly white people kind of coming in, and then being Ugandan, so there was kind of like culture clashes, so that they started to share with me, um, in frequent visits. Les Bones, when did you lose your English accent? Like middle school, like around 7th, 8th grade. Uh, not by choice, but but in some ways too, like when I moved to the States, like obviously, like I was the black ethnic kid with the funny accent and who dressed weird because I dressed very much like a Euro. And this was the early 90s and everything was baggy and high tops and all that kind of stuff. So I got teased for that and teased for my accent. So, not to say I wanted to lose my accent, but I think one of the first things that I was told my first year of living here was basically adapt to the culture, which I think looking back on it, I think was just bullshit because it was just a way for them to feel comfortable with the fact that they didn't have to change versus them having to kind of adapt to me, in terms of me coming here. So, but I think at the time it was just kind of like, just do whatever I wanted to do to fit in. So, so I think kind of subconsciously, I lost my accent, in a way to try to look or sound more American, I guess. Um, Con, do you call them chips or fries? Well, I'm gonna call them fries here, but then when I'm like, in the UK or even in like Uganda, Rwanda, they're called chips. So, um, so you were picked from Southport. Yeah, basically, yeah. So, um, but yeah, so back to the story. So yeah, so I think just as I said, multiple visits to Uganda and me seeing people like over the course of like 10 years, you begin to deepen your friendships, relationships with the people there, but then you also get to see a lot more. And then you kind of make connections to how I think capitalism and colonialism, I think especially in America, has really put an influence in the world. And I think especially in Africa. So like, so I think beginning to see a lot more of that. And then like, as I said, I became a naturalized American citizen in 2015. So then, obviously being able to vote, and like, and then the house I was living in at the time when I was living in Boston, you know, um, one of my roommates was a very big, like basically his TV was basically tuned to MSNBC and CNN basically all day and YouTube. Like he was a huge YouTube fan, but like, but he watched Rachel Maddow religiously every night. So like, I rarely ever watched it with him. But keep in mind, this was the beginning of my evolution. I didn't know any better, so don't hold that against me, please. But honestly, that year there was obviously a lot of talk about Bernie and I think especially regarding Medicare for all. So like again for me, growing up in the UK, having had nationalized healthcare, kind of resonated with me. But I think just a lot of the socialist policies that you would typically see in Europe, definitely resonated in me, actually, from me who lived in Europe and had experience with many of those programs. So, and being like, yeah, we need to have those here. Like, um, and so like, and then from there, I think just the idea of, I think just in connections to Africa, just kind of realizing for me, how, I think just as far as the representation, mostly as far as, being a black person coming in, what was kind of like a huge deal. And I just kind of felt like that really shouldn't be the case. Like I think it was easier for people to associate a white person or any other person of color coming in to their countries and kind of making sense of that. But then, like, when I would come over, them not necessarily kind of getting it, or as I was told that they don't always necessarily associate that there are Black people living in the West. So yeah, I think I just really had a huge issue with that, like, and I felt like in a lot of ways that I was kind of like, uh, the ambassador of everything Black in the West, which I didn't want to have because I have a very unique experience because I'm not African American per se. Like, definitely I associate with that, but like my roots are not based in this country. My roots are based in the Caribbean. So there's definitely a lot of similarities, yes, but there's some uniqueness to, my culture. And then especially being a Black multinational person, like I don't always necessarily associate everything that is deemed African American. So um so yeah, I just so I think just over the years, just really kind of realizing how and just really questioning like why is it that I think Black people especially don't have much more of a presence on the continent in general. Like, I think it's good right now, like, I think, we talk about West Africa a lot, and we talk about South Africa a lot, which I think is great. I think West Africa makes sense, given that many of us, like once upon a time, we descended from that region of the continent, which makes sense. But Africa is a big continent. So, I just want people to have more exposure to the fullness of the continent. And I think especially in East Africa, you know, like the people that I've talked to, they feel kind of very underrepresented there. Like they don't feel like many people are actually really talking about them and really focusing on those issues. So and then when I went to Kigali, Rwanda back in 2019, like a lot of my like one of my mentors who is Rwandan, but when I met him, he was living in Uganda and then since moved back to Kigali. He invited me to come and kind of see what he was working on, in the city. So I went to visit him and then got acquainted with one of his friends who actually was at the program in Uganda too, but I never met him when I was there. And one night, we had dinner together and we just started talking, in terms of like Black issues, just in Africa and just the things I learned, over the years, just as far as my travels to Africa. And we just had the idea of like, would it be cool if we were able to organize, people, from the Black people from the West to really kind of connect with people in Africa, just more like in a way of how I went, just being able to kind of I was able to kind of impart some of my, expertise, especially in education and talking about different things, over there. And then conversely, I learned a lot just as far as, African culture and like, um, and some of the things that I think, especially given that we live here, that we may not necessarily think about, but I felt like there was like a mutual exchange of ideas and thought, and just we just kind of had the idea of like, what it'd be cool if we were able to have like an organization that really extended that. And so that was in 2019. And I kind of sat on that idea for like over a year. Um, and then obviously 2020, actually, no, like just before the lockdowns in 2020, I was on vacation in Miami, and I'm not sure how this came about, but I think I just happened to talk to Ronnie and Peter. They're my friends, like one of my like who I was just talking about, like in Rwanda. And and I think we just kind of came up with there, let's kind of create like a business model around, just you know, people, Black people, especially from the West, being able to come to, Rwanda and Uganda to kind of talk and like kind of discuss the idea of like different ways that we're able to offer, as far as mutual aid and then like different organizations, that we can able to impart, ideas. I think especially in Kigali where, like there's a lot of great stuff. Well, not all of it good necessarily, but like there's a lot of potential, like in Kigali, and Kigali is getting a lot of focus right now. Um, so but just having Black people just being more involved in what's happening in the country, like just and again just bringing up that representation, of Blackness over there, and so long story short, out of that, that's kind of how Komawo Mukwano came about. And, you know, initially, I thought I was going to do like a clothing line, just kind of create like merchandise and then sell like part of proceeds would go to different, organizations or partnerships in the country. And then um, but then obviously during the lockdowns, yeah, I was teaching, but I had a lot of free time. And so like around that time, um, I would watch Rising. Um, but then like I would see, I think it was Rising and then a few other channels well, at the time he went by Poppy Chuliman, but Richie Medhurst, like I would always kind of see him, like in the comments saying, something making a connection to what, the clip of Rising was about. And he would say, if you want to know more about this, come on my channel. And I saw that for months, like him kind of lurking in the comments. And so, like, I think it was like back in May, around May 2020, like I was kind of like, okay, you know what? Like, let me check him out and see what he's up to. And I remember, watching like one of his streams, and then I just got completely sold to him. And I subscribed to him, I think probably, after that first stream. And I think I really just appreciated, him being British and Syrian, but being able to kind of speak from, kind of bringing a Syrian, Middle Eastern perspective to what is happening in that section of the world that apart from what we kind of get, in the US. And I just really appreciated, his take and like his perspective that we also never hear from. So I think in a lot of ways, he kind of inspired me. And I kind of thought about it in terms of Komawo Mukwano, and I was just kind of like, maybe, I should make this into a YouTube channel, kind of doing something similar, but focusing on East Africa. And and so like one of the things I started working on, like, what is the logo? And I connected with an old friend of mine from Boston, who is a graphics designer, and we talked through it. And actually, we spent a very long time coming up with the logo that we have now. I think it took about 6 months. But I told him I didn't want something that was stereotypically, just a continent or a flag or the Pan African flag or something like that. I wanted something very modern, but like something kind of universal that anyone could look at it and know what it is, but having a very African feel to it, like you could tell there's some African influence in the design. Actually, I'll try and have him. I told him that I actually would like to have him on stream at some point, interview him, because I think his process as far as how he creates logos, I think is very interesting. And I think that might be worth, people who are looking to make brands or people who are looking to go into business, who are looking to be a brand. I think some of the information that I think he kind of showed me in connection to that, I think is very interesting. So I'll actually try and have him on the show, on the stream at some point soon. But so yeah, so we worked on the logo, and then during that summer, I from Richie's Discord, Jackson Hinkle kind of popped up, his name. So so I remember, now he said, I thought it was a stream that he was doing, but he said no, I wasn't doing live streams at that time. So I guess it would probably was a recorded, video that he posted. So I watched maybe a couple. I was like, okay, and then uh paid him no mind. And then up until like last December, and then I think people kind of mentioned him again, and then he was starting to live stream at that point. So I remember December, watching him, really liked him, you know. I think I really, and that was kind of when the Force to Vote um, uh, fiasco kind of was kind of popping off. And, you know, and I remember, you know, like he was streaming, you know, one day and he was like, we should start a protest. And when he said that, I was like, yes, please start a protest in like in DC. And I was kind and I, you know, and I said to him, I said on stream, you know, like if you make it to DC, uh, you can come crash at my house, you know, like December 17th. Yeah, that sounds about right, Ricky. So surprisingly, he took me up on my offer, and he crashed in my room for like for the few days that was here. So for those of you who know, like when he was here, that's actually kind of in a lot of ways when I made my debut, you know, streaming with him. But then like while he was here, you know, I figured since I had the idea of making Komawo Mukwano a YouTube channel, I figured talk to him about it and just kind of make that pitch to him and see what he thought and just the reality of actually kind of doing it. And he was like, yeah, um, no one else is doing that. So there's definitely room for that because, you know, like it's very unique. This is issues that no one is necessarily talking about from that context. And you should definitely do it. And I didn't want him to say that because, you know, like I'm very introverted and like I don't want to put myself out there like that. But, you know, um, but I told him then, like, if I do this, I think he convinced me enough that it was worth doing it. But I did tell him, you know, like, please keep me accountable to make sure that I do this. And he has, to his credit. But then, like, talking to people like Frank Analysis, and then like Mona, you know, and Ali Alexandra, shout out to them, you know, just talking to them about the idea too. And they were all like, yeah, go for it. Like, it makes sense for you to do that. And you definitely bring a perspective that we don't necessarily hear in this space, especially in the political space. And you need to do this. And so I just heard a lot of people saying you need to stream. And you know, and I think in a lot of ways the reason why I kind of put it off for so long was one, you know, obviously getting the equipment, you know, takes a while because it's expensive. And then like two, you know, it's just kind of like I don't like putting myself out there like that, you guys. I mean, contrary to what you might think or what you might see on Twitter, I'm very private and like I don't necessarily like doing like putting myself out there like that. I've always kind of been that way. But then like I remember like when I was in Uganda the most recent time back in 2019, I connected with well, he's not a child anymore. When he was a child, then he's a grown man now. But I connected with one of my friends now who is running a medical clinic, and but he was struggling, you know, trying to like he's actually set up his clinic in a very poor area outside of Entebbe, which is a neighboring city next to Kampala. And like he really had the vision of really trying um to really provide a service to the poor, you know. So but obviously, you know, it's very hard to kind of get that equipment that he would need in order to do a good job on his own. So he needed a lot of help. And so he basically asked me, you know, if I could support him financially in order to help keep the clinic running. And I don't have that kind of cash to really give to him, you know. But one of the things that, and I told him that, and I think one of the things he said to me was, please tell, when you go back home here, please tell your people, you know, like what I'm doing so that you know, so that they can see what I'm doing and trying to do what I can to serve my country and my people, and that they'll be willing to put their trust in me to help them, you know? A- and I remembered that in terms of doing this, and it's just kind of like, I cannot do this, you know, because I promised him that I would share his story and share his idea, and you know, being able to share with all of you, and for people who are really interested to connect with him and have him share kind of what he's doing, that we can support him, you know. And so, and not just him, but other people like him who are really trying to do good for the country, but just the infrastructure is just not there, you know, to really bring that kind of radical change, you know, on the ground like that. So I think for me, it's definitely, I just sign it, not to say it's my responsibility, but at the same time, like I was entrusted that promise. So I, and so it would be very foolish of me not to do this and think of him and others who kind of said very similar things, that I'm just kind of holding on to that and not doing anything about it. So this channel, in a lot of ways, is inspired by the people who I've met over the last 10 years who I think really helped me develop more of my identity, you know, as a Black person, but also just being more cognizant of the reality, I think, of what the West has done to to the continent. And then, but for me, and then others like me, having the responsibility that, you know, we have a claim, you know, to the continent, you know, and that's ultimately our home. That's our first home, you know, and you know, we do have the responsibility to take care of it, in my opinion. So I so in a lot of ways this channel is a testament to that promise, and to those people who I've met over the last 10 years who are really desiring connection and community among people like me, and not just me, but like, uh, but wanting more of a connection so that we're able to kind of, you know, really make some radical change, you know, in villages and cities and in different regions, you know, in East Africa and really probably throughout the continent too. So yeah, so this is why this channel is here. And you don't have to be Black in order to obviously watch this. I think many of you are not. Um, but again, I'm just very appreciative for those who are here just being willing to listen to me and just kind of share, you know, my views, and, you know, and just wanting to learn more as I learn more. And I think collectively, you know, trying to bring some change in the region of of the world that doesn't get a lot of love, to be quite honest. And, you know, so do we need a vaccine passport? No, no, we do not do that here. No. Um, so, but yes, exactly, last one. It's just something, just want to bring something new and unique to the table of what is we're kind of saturated with, you know. So, like I said, I'll post as often as I get inspired to do stuff. I'm not necessarily in this for the money or like trying to make, well, if this is a brand, but I'm not necessarily as of now trying to make, you know, this a career. I mean, that's to say, who's to say what would amount to this? But at least my intention right now is like I want to put out stuff that I'm passionate about, that I'm interested in, that I think might be interesting to you to share. And then, you know, and then just kind of seeing where it goes from there. So, um, you know, so I'm not gonna be like putting videos out on the daily or even maybe weekly, you know, but I do try, I will make the commitment to try and put out stuff and stream, you know, as often as I can. But you know, like, but like I said, I definitely want to have, you know, interviews, you know, of people, especially living in Rwanda and Uganda, that I could bring onto the show, you know, want to talk about issues excuse me, you know, of how issues in Africa are kind of tied to the issues that we kind of talk about in the West, in the US and in the UK and in the Caribbean, you know. So there's a lot of intersectionality between some of these issues that I think we talk about, especially, you know, if you're a lefty, and what's happening in Africa right now. And especially if you're Black, you have a stake in all of that. So, yeah, so that's all I kind of want to bring, you know, to the table here. And yeah, I thank you guys for, you know, wanting to listen to me. I don't think I'm that interesting, but I definitely do appreciate, you know, you know, being here. So yeah, let me show you. I think I've talked enough now. So so I want to show you a couple of clips. I might just do one. We'll see how we do. So let me try and pull this up. So I want to show you this clip of Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao. She is the former African Union ambassador to the U.S. And she did an interview with VOA Africa, I think back maybe last year. And I don't think I'm going to play all of the clip, but the part that I want to show you, I think kind of relates to what I just shared in connection to what I shared of why this channel exists and what I hope for the channel. So, so let me just pull this up. Now, this is my first time doing something like this, so I hope you guys are able to hear this. So yeah, let me know if you guys can hear it, because this is my first time sharing my stream. But yeah, here we go.
We are privileged to be welcomed in the home of the former African Union ambassador to the U.S., Dr.Arikana Chihombori-Quao. We will be discussing development,
Can you guys hear?
security, and the state of the African women. Welcome to the conversation.
IMF, World Bank, all other institutions, they make African countries jump through hoops. Loans will never be able to pay. The US, when they borrow money, they're getting it in 1.5, 1.9 interest rate. Africans, when they get the same amount of money, they're paying 9, 10%. The people who don't need a break, they get a break. The ones who need a break, they don't get a break. The sheer survival of the World Bank, IMF, is based on the fact that African countries and many other developing countries do not succeed. Their success is based on our failure. That has to change. And guess who can make that change? We, the children of Africa, we, the Africans, are the ones who have to say, we know your game now. Enough is enough. We're not playing it anymore. And this is where the diaspora come in. There are more Ghanaian doctors in New York City than in the entire country of Ghana. There are more Nigerian doctors in LA than in the entire country of Nigeria. So let's be serious here. What Africa needs is capacity, capacity, capacity. And that capacity is in the diaspora.
Yeah, I just want to stop here because what she said there, Dr. Arikana, like, is very true. Like, the idea, like, when I was in Uganda, like, I had a lot of young people who said to me that they wanted to come here to study, so that I think their mindset was they needed to come here in the West in order to make it. And as she said, there's more African doctors, let's say, you know, in LA, like Nigerian doctors, than there are in the country itself. So, you know, that's something wrong with that picture, you know, like just the idea, like, the fact that a young Ugandan or Rwandan child or person feels like I have to leave my country in order to succeed. And often than not, if they're able to kind of come over here, they're not necessarily going to return, you know. But you can kind of see here, you know, like Dr. Arikana says, you know, yeah, the World Bank sucks. The World Bank does suck. You know, actually, one of my close friends works for the IMF. I think he's trying to leave. because I think he's kind of realized, how awful they are. But but this is an issue, that a lot of Africans on the ground say to me, like, the infrastructure is just not there for them, like that they can thrive. So they feel like the only way they can thrive is to go overseas, and it's very difficult, unless you have if you have a certain job, or if you are just lucky that you get into a position where you're able to leave the country, and maybe maybe study so that like you're able to make a better living for yourself, like you're just kind of stuck. And so yeah, I think just hey, what's up, Jackson? So yeah, that's true, as far as what the young people have shared with me over the years, of just how infrastructure is just not there, jobs are not just not there, and they have the mindset, like, if I come here, it'll be better. And I have to share with them, like, if you come here, it's not going to be much better. If anything, it might be a lot worse, because you have to deal with a lot of the extra crap, like the racism, and all that kind of crap, in order for you, like, if you were to come. So, all right, let's continue.
So it behooves us to bring the diaspora together. Let them understand what is really going on in our Africa. Diaspora are not going home. Diaspora are angry about Africa because they are not understanding the root cause of why Africa is where it is today. They think getting rid of a president will take care of the problem. Far from it. That president is just going to be replaced by another one who's going to equally suffer from the same difficult environment to work in. So let's look at an Africa that must be free to take care of herself, an Africa that's free from exploitation from outsiders. The multinationals who are stealing from Africa every day in broad daylight. I use an example of the DRC. If you ever fly very low over the DRC, you'll see tarmacs in the jungle. You'll see 747s flying into DRC, picking up minerals and flying right out. The same multinationals are responsible for arming young people and giving them MK16s. Because why? Their satellites in the skies are telling them where that village is there are lots of diamonds. So what do? Arm young people, drag them up, and send them to go chop off a few heads. The rest of the village runs away, so they come behind and do their illegal mining. We Black people must understand what is really going on. Because what we are shown instead is, oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There's some serious games that have been played in Africa for far too long. And once we understand that, we can strategize as to how we can begin to bring the difference and bring the change that Africa needs. And that change can only come if the African diaspora are united. And the Wakanda villages, as I call them. It is.
I'm just going to stop here for a second. I mean, she sounds like, you could take what she's saying and apply it to what we kind of talk about here in kind of organizing on the left. It's almost exactly the same issues. And I think that's kind of what I want to share. It's just, like, I think people kind of think of Africa or like anywhere in the global south and being like, oh, like they're backwards, like they don't know anything. But what she's saying here, I think, just the idea of like capitalism, capitalism, colonization has really just, I think especially in Africa, just really ravaged the continent, and they're still trying to benefit, from being there. So, but no, I think the key that what she's saying, which I definitely resonate with, like the key is, again, for people like me and others like me, and then allies who support what we would like to do, to, kind of turn this around. Yeah, Jackson, we were talking about you, like this channel in a lot of ways wouldn't happen without you. So yeah, I appreciate you. So, all right, let's continue on with this.
Our organized way of saying, starting with one African diaspora center of excellence, it will be a new city, a developmental hub that we can then take from there. Every sector is developed. Take healthcare. How many doctors do we need in this region to take care of this many people? We pick up education, same thing. We pick up engineering. We pick up electricity. How many megawatts of power do we have in the region? How many do we need? Be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro, be it geothermal, be it nuclear.
I want to bring you back to West Africa. President Alassane Ouattara made a declaration that the franc CFA will be replaced with the ECO. But many will argue that because there's still foreign reserves being placed into French economy, it's just the same currency, different name.
Absolutely. I agree with that. The question I had right from the get-go, first, respect to the euro. Secondly, it's still going to be printed in France. Third, they may try to say we are eliminating the colonial tax, but they're replacing it with the foreign exchange tax. These countries are very capable of negotiating their own deals. Their funds don't have to go through the French central bank. Even countries wanting to trade with African countries, they don't have to go through French central bank. So there are all those technicalities that are just stupid. What's needed is complete separation. France has got to get out of Africa, really, honestly. Enough is enough. To take $500 billion out of Africa. I mean, it is insanity of the highest order.
And UK and US, they
that are
all need to
supposedly
go.
poor, and making those countries fund French education, French healthcare system, create jobs for French youth while we are struggling in our country. It's no longer sustainable. President Macron needs to wake up and smell the coffee. And the African youth are the ones he's going to have to deal with. The African youth are not taking it anymore. They want what belongs to them. Financial institutions, them too. If I had my way, all the African heads of states should stop paying back any loans that were given by IMF and World Bank. Those loans have been paid gazillion times over.
Many people in the diaspora are wondering, yes, you're no longer the ambassador to the US, but they would like for you to take up.
I want to stop there. I think I'll ask you guys, do you want to watch the rest? Yeah. If I can get her on this channel, I'll be so dope. That would be so dope. But yeah, she is a badass. And funny enough, I just only heard of her maybe a few months ago. But like when I saw this clip, I'm like, I have to play this, for my first stream, or like somewhere like toward the beginning because, but yeah, but I think what she's saying is kind of what we like a lot of, she kind of reminds me a lot of Kashama Sawant, like just a lot of what she's saying just resonates with me, and I'm sure it resonates with you, in dealing with some of the issues on the left. But yeah, I think, and that's the key. And like, as she said, the key is people like me, like who I think we have, and I think again, I think for me personally, we generally don't tend to think that we have that kind of power because I think when you live in this country, you're so inundated with racism that I think for me, you often tend to forget, how much privilege and ultimately in a lot of ways, how much power we do have. And I think especially collectively, we do have, but I think that's the beauty of capitalism is that, like we are looking at like Black people here kind of look at Africa and being like, oh, they're backwards or whatever. And Africans, not all, but some are looking at us over here and just kind of like, oh, we're lazy, like we're doing nothings or whatever else. And like, we have no connection with each other. And like all these rich organizations and corporations are coming in again, recolonizing the continent again, and just kind of retaking their resources again, to the detriment of the people who are living there once again. So yeah, but really love what she has to say. Yeah, like I said, if I can ever get her on this stream, that would be amazing. Maybe, hopefully once I get enough subscribers, then I think it'd be worth it if I could. So yeah, let me ask you guys, should we play a little bit more? Because I do have another clip that I want to show you guys. And then, like, I definitely want to try and call it a night because I don't want to keep you guys up too late. And, Jackson, I'm not sure if you're going to stream after this, but if you're still here. But yeah, so what do you guys think? Should we watch a little bit more or you want to see the next clip? Vicky says dealer's choice. Let's watch a little bit more, only because I think I love what she says, you know, so we'll watch a little bit more of what she has to say. So,
the position of the African Union Commission.
I have to say, when the drumbeat was getting louder about me becoming the chairman of the African Union, I disregarded it because it's nothing that I've ever thought about. But increasingly, as we are looking at the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, you have to understand the role of the African Union Commission is to be the implementer of the decisions that are agreed upon by the African heads of states. So it's important that we not get a career diplomat who's now only looking for their next position. We need somebody who can think outside the box. We need a business-minded person, because people are dying, my dear young child. We've got to realize that children are dying every day. Women are dying every day. Millions of youth are unemployed, and we're too busy being diplomatic, not hitting the nail in the head. If we don't get an African Union chair who realizes that you're under the table and they're making you fight with your brothers and sisters as to who got the larger chunk of the crumbs under the table, that way you never have to talk about what's on the table. That is a blind chair. We need somebody who gets it. I do know that there's a need for major disruption at the African Union level. If I were to become chair of the African Union, I want to bring disruption.
As we look at the African woman today, when we seek for crucial areas where she can be empowered and enabled, where should we focus? Should we focus?
Okay, I think that's all I wanted to show, but yeah, but I think, yeah, I mean, it's amazing how I think people might believe that, oh, it's Africa, they have different issues. It's really not. Like, it's a lot of the same issues that they deal with are the same issues that we're dealing with. So that's kind of why I want to help people make these connections, because ultimately, and I think especially in the political world, we feel like, oh, everything is so separate, everything is so different, when it really is not. Like, you know, like you can say this for most countries, if not all countries in Africa, like this is like this. It's just the idea of capitalism, you know, has just kind of ravaged villages and countries and cities throughout the continent to the detriment of the people who are living there, you know, like, and the same thing here. Like, you know, capitalism has kind of ravaged, you know, our way of life here to the point where, you know, we don't have healthcare. It's guaranteed healthcare. We don't have guaranteed housing. Like, jobs are just not there, or wages are just not there. So, you know, there's a lot of commonalities, you know, just as far as, you know, are the two places. So yeah, I mean, and I'm glad that Dr. Arikana meeting makes those points as far as, you know, like, people need to get organized, and people have to kind of wake up to the reality of what's happening and organize around that. So so definitely, yeah, awesome clip. So definitely I'm glad I was able to kind of show you guys. So yeah, I have one more clip that I want to show you all, and then I'll take some time, you know, if you have any other questions, you know, more AMAs. And then I think we can call it a night, so that you guys, I mean, it's Friday night. For many of you, it might be a 3-day weekend, so definitely want you guys to enjoy whatever plans you might have tonight or whatever else. But I do want to play this other clip for you guys. So while I get ready, so this guy, I haven't heard too much of him. I actually want to watch him a little bit more. And I'm going to show half the clip, but his name is Vusi, and I'm going to butcher his name. Sorry. But Vusi Thembekwayo, and he's a venture capitalist based in South Africa. Also found this clip, I believe, on Instagram via TikTok. And he talks about the mindset of Africans, which I think it might sound, what he says, it might sound very, very provocative at first. But I think once he goes a little deeper, then I think it makes a little bit more sense. So, all right, let's pull him up. Yeah, I'm sorry if you guys hear that noise in the background. Fun fact, I live by Howard University. So that band plays like I literally live like 3 blocks away from Howard University, and their football field is like right there. So so they play like music and then like have their band practice out there. So so I apologize if you hear like extra noise. But here we go.
He's at the back. I'll introduce you to him. He came to fix my jacket. He's project managing the whole program for us. Some of you asked me on social media what happened to the hub and vendor. Guys, can I, before you go, I want to say something, and this is going to go on the record, so I know I'll be destroyed for this, but it's my truth, so okay. Black people were not ready for freedom. We weren't. We were not ready for freedom. I've studied everywhere we have been liberated, whether or not we were able to liberate ourselves from our own bondage. And it's a deep question. So, study us as a people. This is not a criticism, it's a reflection. If you differ, I'm happy to share perspectives. But study us as a people. You notice that everywhere where we are in bondage, we are phenomenal at fighting for our liberation. Once we've received it, something goes wrong. And the mindset is pervasive. And it's pervasive, it's invasive, it's insidious. It's like a virus. And if you try and remove, once a virus takes over a cell, it multiplies. And so the reason you can't remove the virus is the only way to kill it is to kill the host. That's where we are. So when a person amongst us does something, rather than celebrate, we ridicule. Rather than collaborate, we compete. Rather than support, we sabotage. I thought long and hard about why is this? Like it's been bugging me. And then I realized something, that whether it was apartheid, colonization, the Jim Crow laws in the US, all of those systems of oppression had one singularity in communication. They said to Black people, only one. That's it. So in slavery days, there was only one house nigger. The rest of y'all worked in the field. When we negotiated for our South Africa, there was only Mandela at Codesa. All the other political parties had to sit and watch the ANC. When we got our liberation, there was only one Cyril at the board. Only one. So when a Black person makes it, the rest of us go, shit, he's taken the seat. That's why we practice crabs in a bucket. We go, the only way I get that seat is if I'm Tatu Vusi. We don't think multiplier. Make sense? So he's going, I want to make a supercar. Nobody's going, how do I make tires for a supercar? We all go, shit, now he's done it. I'm telling guys, this is my most honest reflection on, and I've thought about, do I make it do I share it on social media? I was just like, the time will come. This has felt right, is the time. People will see this and I'll get slated for it, I'm sure. But I'm telling you now, I see it with me. The only people who attack are the people who want the seat. But here's what you're not seeing. I'm sitting where I'm sitting, and where I'm sitting, the system I'm fighting, if I get it right, opens for all of us. So, it's the guy who fights Makhosa.
So I'm going to stop here for a second. But yeah, how familiar does this sound? Just, especially on the left, we hear this, and I think especially we see this all the time, and I think especially for me as a Black person, I definitely identify with the idea that, we're fighting for the top, but for that one seat at the table, because often, it's so controlled by people, like, so inundated with white supremacy, that if you're lucky, that there may be just one seat, for Black people to be at that stature, and then the rest of us, it's just kind of like, oh, whatever, like, it's just for the one and not for the many. And and I think we have to think into, I think we definitely do think about this on the left. I think especially when we think of policies like Medicare for all, or like, or all these universal like programs, we thinking in terms of what will benefit the many instead of the few. And like, I think we can kind of see, like, within our politicians, they kind of focus on themselves and not necessarily for the rest. And I think especially for Black people, because we have very little, that we have to kind of fight each other in order to get that one seat, instead of thinking like, if I'm going to get there, then the rest of us are going to get it too. And so, yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, Transmark just says, Cornell Last calls it blackface. Is exactly that. So basically, just kind of like he says, it's just like, we have the representation, but they're basically like the gatekeepers, so, and we see this all the time in media, especially, like in, especially in the media, where, we see these Black personalities who, are really kind of shilling for the media, and like they're lobbyist goons, and not really fighting for the people who I think need it the most. So yeah, very powerful observations. But again, does this sound any different? This sounds exactly kind of what we talk about, here in this country. And this is a South African who's making these observations. So, yeah, we'll keep going.
It's the guy who fights Tula Cindy. It's the guy who fights a Trevor Noah. What you don't recognize is what they are doing in their spaces makes it okay for us to be in those spaces. So don't fight Batu, fight Nike. Don't fight Makosa, fight Gucci. Do you get it? Like, your mind, it's all wrong, guys. The mindset is this thing. Hey, man, we must be here, man.
Yeah, and he said it, Vusi said it. It's just the idea of like, we're fighting each other, like, and just the idea, and I know like Nick from Socialist M&A for Anti-Leftist talks about this all the time, like, we're fighting left versus right, when it really should be the elite versus everyone else. And like, we're fighting the wrong fight, guys. So, it's just the idea of like, let's focus our energy and fight against the people who really are oppressing us, not the people who, we should be working in solidarity with. And I've said this before, like, I'm not necessarily going to reach out, like, let's say a right winger, to kind of have them come to my side necessarily. But if they're going to fight to have for issues that I support, I'm going to come alongside them on that. Like, I will work alongside anybody if it means getting Medicare for all. I'm going to work alongside anybody if we can get like, if we can cancel student debt, or, universal housing, or, take your pick of any policy that you care about, But yeah, instead of fighting each other, we need to be fighting these corporations and taking a stand against them. They are the true enemy, not each other.
My uncle always says, "Danak, how never dula oblanga how never do." Okay, cool. So the point I'm making, and so I don't want to get into the details of what happened in Venda, but let me put it to you this way: we got sabotaged. We went in, we got the land. I invested over 8 million rand building our hub. We went in local supplies. Everything in my hub was done by local people. The paving, the electrification, the fencing, everything. 8 million rand I pumped into the local economy of Toyando. Then you know what happened?
Sorry, guys. I think that's the video, because when I streamed it, tried it earlier, I was hearing that static.
Mayor,
so it'll be over in a minute.
The commissioner of police, the police station manager, even the judge at the high court were all in on it. said this publicly, let him sue me. I got the money. And I asked myself, why would they do it? Because it's very simple. In their minds, a young guy can't just come, just. No. He must respect first. And you're just like, I'm trying to change the world. Like our hub was going to be free, guys, free. State of the art, running 4G networks. We're offering 200 accredited courses with the University of Pretoria, 100 more by Gibbs, and 100 by the London School of Economics. Collectively, the courses alone are going to cost me 4 million. I was going to find young entrepreneurs in the area, educate them for free to walk out with a diploma or degree. Then I was going to give them a hub that runs for free. You can just come and use it. Network, Wi-Fi, anything you want, just come and use it. It's yours. Why? Because it just makes sense too. The old people didn't see it that way. I think a lot of us are going to have to make a decision about who we're going to give the future of this continent to. Because the people in charge now, the old ones, they ain't got a clue what they're doing. They don't have a clue what they're doing. When you're going to pitch at that big business, I'm going to share some news for you. I want to listen to this gentleman. When you're going to pitch for that opportunity at that big business, let me tell you, Fantonda is the one supporting you. Mantla Sbego at the board is one going, no. Now, I know I've said some stuff that have cut deep, but you know what it hurt? Well, not they say it only hurts if it's true. My brother, over to you.
What I gotta say, I mean, he's right. It's just the idea of like, again, you can make the connection here in this country, just a lot of our politicians, they're a lot older, they're not thinking about us, and they're so out of touch that they're not even caring for our needs. And so, so I think really it's just kind of coming up to us to really do something about this. So, but yeah, that's all I really wanted to show you guys tonight. So let me stop sharing this. And we only have a few. So yeah, I think I'm going to end this within the next 5 minutes. Wow, I don't believe I was streaming for 2 hours. Time goes fast when you're doing this. I forgot. Like it feels like 20 minutes, but it's actually like 2 hours. But yeah, I mean, like I said, thank you guys for coming on this inaugural stream and hanging out with me and chatting with me and and supporting me in this. So yeah, I'll just take a look at your comments. I'll take another like 5, maybe 10 minutes. Just read, and then any more questions from me, feel free. So Transmark just says Erica cares about the micro, she doesn't give a shit. Yeah. True. DefMX says, I'm more against the things Trevor Noah is saying than him as a human. But if he's paid to normalize these things, he's a corporate mouthpiece and should be still held accountable. Yeah, I agree. You know what? Like, I am so disappointed with how, Trevor Noah has kind of shifted, and I remember I went to his comedy show back in 2017 in Boston, and he was very he was very radical then, and I really appreciated him. But I think within the last few years, he's just kind of, showed out for the establishment. And yeah, he is and I've just gotten so disappointed, of how he has kind of turned, it's almost like he forgot, where he came from and so yeah, I used to like him too. I actually have Born Without a Crime on my bookshelf over here. I'm yeah, very disappointing of where Trevor Noah has, basically become a paid corporatist, for the establishment. So yeah, sad, very sad. DefMX said the cringe that quote sexual thing turned into during the pandemic sounded me forever on him. Yeah, I think and there were complaints about Trevor Noah for a while. I think compared to Jon Stewart, people didn't like him as much. But I think initially I thought he was okay. But I think especially during like the pandemic, like I really don't watch the Daily Show. I actually used to watch the Daily Show kind of religiously, even maybe as recently as maybe like 3 years ago. Like I will just watch his clips on YouTube or whatever. And yeah, I think especially during the pandemic, he's just really kind of gone down the tubes for me, just as far as how he's become more establishment by the day. So, Transmark said, sad to what happened to Colbert too. Yeah, true. DefMX says, I live with a New Yorker, and anyone with a pulse should have been highly aware of Cuomo being a bad politician long. Yeah. That whole family, is shit. So yeah, like, but I mean, we did that for we did that for Giuliani too. Like he was corrupt as hell, but then when 9/11 happened, like he became a hero. And like all of his sins were forgiven, back then. So like, but prior to that, like, people hated, Cuomo's gut, like, well, not Cuomo, Giuliani's guts. So yeah, like, yeah, kind of sad, really. Yeah, so actually, while I'm here, like before I forget, let me do the stereotypical YouTube thing. So just as for people who came in late in the chat, the reason why I'm streaming on this and not the actual channel is because for some reason YouTube is not allowing me to stream on that channel. I have to do it on my personal account. So I apologize about that. So I'll see what I can do to try to get it resolved. But I think in the meantime, I'll just stream on this until I figure it out. But that being said, if you do want to subscribe, I hope you guys, I think many of you guys are already. I'll put, I just put the actual Komawo Mukwano's channel in the chat. So yeah, just subscribe there if you're new. And then hopefully I get that resolved so that you guys know whenever I do start streaming or when I post a video. So actually what I'll do, I will upload this, probably not tonight, but sometime tomorrow. I'll upload this stream and post it on that channel sometime tomorrow, if not definitely over the weekend. So, but yeah, just to kind of answer your question, like why you're not premiering on like the actual channel itself is because YouTube won't let me for some reason. So yeah, subscribe there, and hopefully like I can get that resolved so that you'll get notified whenever I stream. So at least I've been able to do this. So Transmark just says he would have been fine if he didn't front Biden during the primary, but he did so. The establishment crushed him with the scandal. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if Cuomo kept his mouth shut, like, and honestly, I feel like he still might kind of be all right, in the same way how, we kind of restore our politicians, like, after a few years, even at the worst possible ones. So, I mean, there's no telling what will happen to Cuomo after this, but I'm sure he will get his redemption song in due time. So, Dems typically protect their own. It was laughable to see Biden telling him to step down. Yeah, very laughable considering that he could do the same thing for all the shit he's done. Hey, Mix, what's up? Glad you're here. Appreciate you came on the stream for the last 2 minutes. Yeah, I'm probably going to end very soon, but yeah, appreciate that you're on, my friend. Thank you for being here. Transmark says, remember when people were saying Biden was losing it and the media was propping Cuomo? I think I got his payback. Yeah. Yeah, I think he definitely did too. So yeah. So I'll stay on for maybe 5 more minutes. And then I think I'm calling it a night because I'm actually gonna get a little tired. So you're fine, Mix, because I'm gonna end in like 5 minutes. So you know, so like yeah. So I appreciate you coming on during your break. Yeah. But yeah, any last questions before I'll let you all go and you can enjoy your evenings? Last questions for me. Wow, better late than never. Yeah, better late than never. But yeah, like I said, like should have been a lot earlier, but but at least I'm doing it now. At least it's out there that I'm starting to stream, being in the YouTube space. So yeah, yeah. Now that I'm pretty much done with it, like I'm happy now that I'm over it. Ricky says, when's the next protest at the Capitol? I don't know. I should ask you that. Like, yeah, that's how I met you, was from the Force the Vote protest. So yeah, and I remember you telling me you basically had that plan, like, and you were basically saying, make sure you're around in July because I want to have a protest, for Medicare for All, way back in January. So, but yeah, I'm glad you pulled it off, Ricky, and like appreciate you and Sharif and Savage Joy, just for the work that you did, to try to make that reality. And obviously too bad that it didn't get as much attention as it probably should have, but but at least it kind of connected people, to the cause, and the fact that we still need America. Like just because Biden's in office doesn't mean the idea of Medicare for All hasn't gone away. So appreciate your efforts in that, even though you got a lot of flack online, for trying to provide something for the benefit of the people. So yeah, for folks who don't follow Ricky, you need to follow him on Twitter. And he also has a YouTube channel. So Ricky, when are you gonna stream again? Like, you have been streaming for quite a bit, my friend. Yeah, you are. You're quite the controversial. Yep, you definitely are. And I definitely like enjoy your tweets. Funny enough, like people, like I tell people, it's funny, like I tell people, like, if don't follow me on Twitter because I feel like I'm kind of loose with the tweets at times, but people say they love it, like certain people who I'm surprised who say they love it say that they love what I tweet out. So so okay, like I just hope that it doesn't kind of bite me in the ass, one of these. I'm sure they will, but one of these days. But like I have the right to say what I want to say and get my opinion out there. So that's what Twitter's for. Ricky, I want to write a book. What do you want to write a book about? I love your tweets. I love your tweets too, man. So yes, one of the few forums that I get to really express myself, especially living in DC, where everyone is very liberal and not everybody necessarily. I think they like some of the ideas in theory, but will not necessarily organize around those ideas to make them reality. So, watch your Twitter. I will do you one better, and I will post my Twitter handle. So just give me a second. So definitely follow me there. Like I said, if you, especially like when I stream, you can find out when I do. Here we go. And then, yeah, so, okay, just posted my Twitter in the stream. So follow me there. And once you're trying to already recognize your name from the last Jackson chat on Twitter. Yeah. So yeah, basically my handles, I don't really use Instagram, but basically my handles on social media is a variation of Obona Colin, so it might be either with the period or the underscore, depending on the forum. But on Twitter, it's Obona _ Colin. So thank you, sir, for the follow. Yeah, you know what, Ricky? Actually, what I hope to kind of cover on KM is, just COVID in East Africa, and just how they're kind of dealing with that, so, just talking about, especially in the light of the fact that, I mean, whether you're pro-vax or anti-vax or whatever, like the reality is, like, especially countries in the global south, they don't have a vax, like they don't, like, or it's very hard to come by. So, which we're not talking about either. So, so I would love to try maybe interview or maybe find some news clips that we can watch just to kind of see, like what the reality is like, in East Africa in terms of having them deal with COVID and the pandemic. And actually, yeah, like like a few of my friends, like those of you who watched Jackson's unboxing of the present that I sent for him for his birthday, might remember Joshua. Joshua was telling me, like they were under lockdown over the summer. So that was the second one. So, and like when the country's locked down, they lock down. So you can't really do much of anything. So like for like a few weeks, basically, there was barely any transportation or anything. Basically, nothing was really going. So other than essential services, and considering that for many places, like a grocery store, even where to get food can be like few and far between, like if people are not able to get to, to the market or whatever, or if they're in the village, you have to walk maybe like a few miles to get there, or take a boda, which is a motorcycle taxi. If they're not running, then you're not going to be able to get food, so yeah, I mean, I would love to maybe interview, somebody, there. I might try maybe get Joshua on if he's able to and talk to him about it, but just kind of see, just kind of from their perspective, what life is like, COVID during the pandemic. Definitely says, my partner follows you already. She's been going off on spaces for hours, so she's not watching the stream with me. Are you talking about Ricky or are you talking about me? Either way, that's awesome. Like everyone should follow Ricky. So, any last questions for me before we get out of here for tonight? Follow me, yeah. So Transmark says, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys. How was your FHO appearance today? Yeah, it was great. Yeah. Talked with Aaron, who we follow each other on Twitter, so it's good to kind of make the connection to him. And then Bess as well, who I've kind of seen, on different channels before, different interviews before. So it's good talking to them. It's also great being able to talk to Savvy, someone who I've now followed now for the last couple of months, really appreciate her, really followed her and the other Fred Hampton Lettuce, on YouTube and Twitter. They're doing awesome work there. But yeah, it was great. Like I think I love the format though, being able to talk to different generational groups and talking about issues that are kind of pertinent, to each generation. So the idea is that they want to get like people of different, generational groups on the show. And actually what she said, I think afterward, was there was so many millennials, who contacted her wanting to be on the show. So I was very blessed that, it was the first that she thought of to, ask, would you like to be, on stream? Yeah. I was actually, when I was planning to stream earlier in the day, like I was thinking about it later in the week, but then when Savvy was like, can you come on Friday at that time? I was like, I'm not going to say no to that. So I then decided to push it later. So, but I think it was a good move anyway, because then I was able to, try and learn how to do some stuff on StreamYard, and all of that, make sure my camera was working and everything was working before I came on stream. And now I'm streaming. And all is good with the world. And yeah. Any last questions before I get out of here? I'll take one more question and then I'll go. Stephanie said, no, she follows you, Colin. Oh, thank you. Tell your partner I appreciate her following. The boomers will complain. I wouldn't say that. That's not necessarily fair. I don't think not all boomers are bad, so I think it depends, but I think it'll be interesting to kind of hear their perspective. It would be interesting to kind of hear, the silent generation, because that's the generation that my parents grew up in. My dad is 80 and then my mom is 78. So like I think that would be very interesting. Like I would almost say like but even when my parents were better at, tech, I would probably recommend them to talk to Savvy to see if they can get on the show, so but especially my dad, he comes from, you know, like he's had quite a life, but I will say for my dad, he's definitely made something of himself, but there's definitely a lot of hardship, in terms of, growing up from Barbados, especially like coming out of like the slavery, not too far out of slavery and still remnants of that, in the country when he was growing up, and then moving to London and having to kind of deal with that, just the racism that he and my mom had to deal with over there, and being an entrepreneur, but making a business where he's able to serve, like Black people in the UK, in a powerful way. And I think in a lot of ways, trying to do a similar thing, but in my own way. So would be interesting, Actually, my dad, neither one of my parents know what I'm doing this. That's kind of sad, but I want to try and get enough of a base first, and then maybe I should have my dad on the show, like one of these days. So that would be a very interesting stream, to be able to interview my dad. So I will take one more question. Make it funny, though. That's my only request. Make it funny. that would be cool. Make them proud. Yeah, I think no, they're proud of me. I think, like I think no, I've had a very strained somewhat relationship with my dad growing up. But I think now that I'm older and I kind of understand, a lot more of who he is and why he is the way he is, I definitely respect him a lot more. And I think definitely our relationship, it's gone a lot better. And I think, yeah, he wouldn't necessarily say it to my face, but, just other people who know him have said, like, he's proud of what I'm doing. I think, especially being a teacher, like and an early childhood teacher, that I don't think he was necessarily a fan of that at first, but I think now that I've been doing it for a long time and, I've been able to kind of make a mark in that, like, I think he's definitely bought into the idea now. And actually, in a lot of ways, I'm kind of helping him, in terms of some stuff in connection to um, he basically essentially gave money to build a library at his old primary school in Barbados. And so actually, that reminds me, I have to help him get some books, that are Afrocentric, to put in that library. So, yeah, I just remind myself that I need to get that done soon. Definitely says just putting yourself in a very public space and trying to educate anyone is a noble thing. Yeah, well, I do that every day. I do that as a teacher, for little kids. So yeah, I definitely agree. But I think the idea of doing this, in a way where you can easily get criticized and ridiculed, I think is a little more intimidating. And I think especially watching, a lot of other YouTube personalities, in what they're doing, you can make the wrong take. You can say something that people may not agree with you on, and, you can get a lot of backlash for that. So I think, and I think honestly, that's kind of what I was afraid of, I don't want to necessarily kind of deal with that. I mean, it comes with territory, but I think, as I said earlier, to not do this out of the promise I made to people, sharing about them and giving them a voice when they don't have one, I think scares me a lot more, so, so as I said, in a lot of ways, this channel is in a lot of ways a debt of gratitude to the people who didn't really know me, but really took me in and kind of encouraged me and made me whole as far as learning more about myself and kind of starting to learn more about my past, especially given my ancestry, but helping me know of the possibility of what can happen if, people like me are able to see beyond our borders and kind of see the reality of what we can do, if we kind of put our heads together and say let's not just focus on trying to, make it in America or in the UK or anywhere in the West. We have a stake in Africa that we can do some work into, and we have a right to it. So yeah, that's why I'm doing this. Definitely, YouTube is a global platform. Definitely more intimidating to see how much crap commentators say to hosts. Yeah. I definitely, yeah. So I think, yeah, this is a public forum and you're going to get criticized. But again, as I said, the idea of not doing what I promise people, scares me a lot more. So I just ask you guys just to kind of keep me accountable, as far as, things that I might say that might not necessarily be correct. Because like I said, I'm not coming in as an expert. I'm coming in as a learner too. So I'm going to say it out right now. I definitely don't know everything, but yeah, if I make a wrong take, tell me, and I'll fix it, but yeah, not coming in as an expert. I'm coming in as a person who wants to learn and give people a forum to share. That's really, what this channel is for. All right, guys. So 2 hours, 20 minutes. That's a long stream, but I think a very good stream to start. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys, coming on, hanging out with me, and, just let me share into the YouTube universe about this channel, and it's finally up. So yeah, so thank you very much, guys, for joining on this inaugural stream. Like I said, Monday, People's Indigenous Day, which is what date? Would be the 11th. I am going to interview a few guys from, connected to the Marches for Medicare for All about the protest Day for the Dead protests in San Francisco Halloween weekend. Again, and I'm hoping that I'm able to interview my friend, who's visiting from Kigali, to talk about something in connection to the healthcare system in Rwanda, whatever he's able to share. That probably will not be a live stream. It will probably be pre-recorded, and then I'll post it afterward, just due to little tech issues. So that's why I have on the docket right now. And then like I said, I'll just, whatever I'm inspired by, I will kind of plan another stream. And yeah. And in the meantime, I'll try and figure out what the hell is wrong with YouTube that it won't let me stream onto the actual channel itself. And hopefully I can get that resolved soon. So, so in the meantime, just look for me on Twitter when I share. And then if you guys can help me retweet and kind of share out that I'm streaming, that would be great. So, all right, guys. So I'm out of here. I'm tired. And I probably am going to bed, to be quite honest with you. It's been a long day. But yeah, thank you guys so much for streaming, watching with me, hanging out with me for the last couple of hours. You guys are awesome. And yeah, so hope to see you all again soon. Hopefully more of you will come and stop by and hang out with me. And yeah, and take care of yourselves. Have a great night, great morning, wherever you are in the world, and take care of you soon. Bye, guys. Thank you.